Alright, welcome Vikings. This is a project tutorial on CodeBlocks handheld objects. You're going to be placing shapes, moving objects, scaling objects. Woo, sorry about that. Rotating objects, cutting holes, grouping objects, putting text down, looping actions, and exporting our models so that way we can put them somewhere else. So yes, you have to use CodeBlocks in order to complete this project. Let's check out what the project specifics are. In TinkerCAD CodeBlocks, we're going to design a handheld item. You cannot create an item that is designed for violence. Oh no, what am I going to do? Everything is designed for violence, McDowell. No, most things can be used for violence, but most things are not specifically designed for violence. So that's the main thing that we want here. You get 10 points if you use at least 5 different shapes, scale, and position. You get 5 points if, you get 10 points for that. You get 5 points if the model uses instances of holes cut out of simple shapes. You get 10 points if the model uses at least one instance of a looped process. We'll talk about what that means. And you get 5 points if the project is turned in as an STL, 2 screenshots, and 1 video that showcases your scene. You can get some extra credit if you include a text shape that is scaled and attached to your model. You can get some extra credit if your model could actually be printed on a 3D printer. That is, it has no hanging or floating pieces just floating around. And lastly, you can get some extra credit if you create an item that a Viking would commonly use. Not to say that Vikings have too many non-violent items, but I'm sure you could think of some. Maybe things that they would use for music, like a horn or a drum, or maybe something like a small object that they would carry around with them, or something that just has Vikings logos on them. That also works. Alright, can't do videos on Chromebooks. That's why I got you another computer, Dominic. I got you that other computer so that way you could do that. Alright, let's get into how we work on this stuff. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to TinkerCAD and open up the CodeBlocks area. So let me show you how you would do that here. I need to get this to where I can see. There we go. A spork. So I'm going to go to TinkerCAD.com. Go into the TinkerCAD space. Once you're here and you've logged in, you're going to see on the left-hand side something that says CodeBlocks. So I'm going to click on that CodeBlocks area here and click on Create New CodeBlock. Now first, what I want to do is I want to come up with a little diagram of the different things that I want to make. So usually when you create a 3D model, you think about, what do I need to do? I need to make the different parts. So there's going to be a handle. There we go. I'm going to have a spoon bowl, and I'm going to cut a hole out of that spoon bowl so that way it's like indented, so to speak. And then I'm also going to have some text here on the side. And then I'm going to have some stars. So what you see here is basically a little diagram. Oftentimes when you make a 3D model, you're going to want to make a little sketch. That way you can figure out like what is it exactly that I'm going to be making. Before you even get into it, you can make a little plan. So I have a handle, a base, my spoon bowl with the hole here. And then I've got these 5 different stars here. And I've got some text. Cool. So now I know all the different pieces of what I want to make in my model. Alright, now that I've made a little SketchUp, a little mock-up here, I can actually create my design. So I'm going to go here to New Design and click on that. And now, as you remember from last class, we have our different shapes over here on the left side. We have our modifiers for those shapes here. We have our looping controls here. And we have math that we can use and comments that we can use. I'm going to use these comments down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually list out the different things that I need to make with these comment blocks. The comment blocks are pretty much just to keep me on track. So I'm going to go here. How do you do a sketch like that, Baba Booey? You could use paper, yeah. It's a wild idea. Or you could use OneNote on your computers as well. OneNote is what I just used to do that. Really, you can just make a drawing. It's just to show you some of the basic ideas of what we can do. So what do I need? Let me look back at my drawing. There's a handle. There's a spoon with a hole. There's some text. There's some stars. Okay, so let me write that out here. I'm going to have my handle. I'm going to have my spoon bowl. I'm going to have text, and I'm going to have some stars. All right. Let's get into how this works. So first, I need to make my handle. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make an object. And to do that, I'm going to go over here to where I have my modifier, my purple modifier. I'm going to grab the create object, and I'm going to name this spoon base. So I'm going to rename the variable here. Instead of having it object 0, I'm going to call this spoon base. Spoon base. There we go. All right, so I've created the new object. I need to make my handle, so I'm just going to put my comment in there. And I need to make a handle, so I'm going to grab my box object and snap it in there. There we go. Now if I press play over here on the top right side, you'll see that it will make that square. Where does it place the cube? Well, it puts it right on the origin. So the center of your objects will always be right here where these three axes connect. If you recall, the red axis is the x-axis, the y-axis is the green axis, and the z-axis is the blue one. X, Y, Z, red, green, blue. Okay, cool. Now, how do I want to manipulate this object? Well, if you look over here on the left-hand side, on where my blue block is, I can click on this little arrow and I have more parameters. We call these parameters that I can change to be able to change the size and the shape of this particular shape, or the scale rather. So if I click on, not all objects will have this, by the way, just the square does. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this blue circle or this red circle, and I can change the color of my object. What color should I make the spoon? What do you think, Sage? Purple. You got it. All right. So I've changed the color to purple. Now when I press play, now the cube is purple. Cool. Let's say I want to change the distances. Let's say I want to change the scale of this particular object. Well, how would I do that? I would change those little numbers that are right next to the shape that's shown here. So I want to make it less wide. I want to make it longer, and I want to make it tall or less tall. So whoops, 5, 80, and 2 is my height. There we go. As for edge, I'll just make it have no edge there. When I press play, now we can see that it is a squared off object here. And I've decreased how wide it is, and the width is the first number, which is the x-axis. I've lengthened it, so I've moved it more along the y-axis, and I've made it less tall. I've made it very short, so you can see it's basically a long handle here. Cool. All right, now I need the spoon bowl. So what I need to do is I need to grab something like a half sphere. I'm going to grab the half sphere and pop it in here. Now you'll see that when I create the spoon bowl here, that it basically drops it right on top of the origin that we see right here. And that's cool, except this doesn't look like a spoon at all, right? This is kind of like the beginnings of maybe some kind of a hat, some kind of a helmet or something, if I wanted to make these into horns or something. Or the superior headgear of having like a drink hat. I think somebody had that where they like held 2-liter bottles on top of their hat. This seems kind of close to that. But what I want to do is I want to turn this thing around. I don't want it to be facing down like this. So this is where we're going to use the modifiers. Over here on the left-hand side, we're going to see something that says rotate. So I'm going to grab the rotate tool, or rotate modifier, and clip that onto the spoon bowl base here. Now you can see that you can rotate around different axes. And when it says rotate around them, it means actually to spin them around the axis, the line that comes out here. So if I want to rotate around the x-axis, I can choose how much I want to rotate it around. I'm going to spin it completely around. And now when I press play, you'll see that it creates that object and spins it around. Alright, cool. This is good, except I need to make it to where it's actually like spoonish. That is, it's going to be flatter. I need to make it smaller, and I need to make it longer, but I can't because the half sphere here doesn't have any of these cool width, length, and height modifiers. So instead I have to scale the object. If I go down here to scale and grab that and drag that on and clip it on this area, now I can scale it. Now, how does scaling work? Let's talk about this. Basically, you can multiply your dimensions by a certain number. If it's all 1, then you're not doing anything to the object. But if I put 2 in all of these places, what am I doing? I'm doubling the size of the object. Let's check it out. If I press play, woo! All right, I can double the size of the object. If I want to make it smaller, I can put 0.5, and then I can basically half the size of the object. If I press play here. Oh, how do you actually place it? You got to press the play button up here on the top right. So right next to where it says speed here, when you press play, it runs through your code from the top down. So you can see now I've got this little itty bitty tiny bowl. Okay, that's all right. What I want to do though is I think I want to scale it to where it's longer in the Y direction. I'm going to keep my X exactly the same. I'll make X 1, but I'm going to make it longer in the Y direction. So I'll say 1.5 for the Y direction. And I also want to make it shorter. So I'm going to make it like 0.25. I'm going to make it 1/4 or 1/4 of the size that it would be in the height direction. All right, cool. Dominic, you press the export button to be able to turn it into an STL. We'll get to that. All right, so now, okay, cool. I've scaled it. I made it to where it is shorter. You can see here. Basically, if I press play, it's rotating it, and then it's squishing it down, and it's making it longer in the Y direction. Cool, this is much closer to a spoon that I want to use. The last thing that I need to do is I need to move this object. So I'm going to go grab the move modifier and click and drag that in here. And now I've got the move modifier in there. I can move it in any direction that I want. If I put 45 in the X direction and I press play, you'll see that it moves it in the direction of the red line here. If I put a negative number in here, like negative 45, it will move it in the other direction. It'll move it away from this line, still in the same direction as the line, but away from the way that it's pointing. All right, cool. But that's not what I want. I want it in the Y direction. So I'm going to put it 45 in the Y direction. Let's try that. There we go. All right, that's looking like a spoon. Except what I need to do is I need to actually cut a hole in this spoon so that way it's not like a solid paddle like what we have right here. So to do that, I'm going to duplicate this code right here, and I'm just going to raise it up a little bit and make it a hole. All right, let's see how we can do that. Keep in mind you can take a screenshot of any of this tutorial in order to give you credit for today's group participation. We're just working on this today. So let's see how you can actually make this into a hole. I can duplicate this code by right-clicking on the shape right here. Let's say I want to duplicate this object. I can right-click on the blue object right here and go to duplicate. And when I do that, it's going to take all that code and make a copy of it. So I'm basically making a copy of this object exactly how it is. I'm going to go ahead and make that. Except I'm not going to make this a solid. I'm going to make this the second half sphere here. I'm going to make this one a solid hole, or I'm sorry, a solid, and I'm going to make this into a hole, which is done by clicking on the other dot right here. Instead of the solid one here, I'm going to make it this. And I'm also going to make this purple. The solid, I'm going to make a purple. That way it's all the same object. So let's check out what this looks like. Except what I want to do with this is I don't want it to be exactly in the same spot as the other object, as the main sphere here. I'm going to raise it up a little bit. That is, I'm going to move it in the Z direction. I'm going to move it up 1 centimeter. That way it's going to be a little bit higher. Let's take a look at this one more time. It's going to create this half sphere, and it's going to create this half sphere as a whole, except it's going to move it 1 up in the Z direction. That way it's going to be hovering a little bit above where this object is. Let's see what this looks like. There's the first one. There's the hole. And you can see here that it placed the object there, except it moved it up a little bit. All right, cool. The last thing that I need to do is simply group these objects. So I'm going to click on Create Group and drag that down here on the bottom and clip that together. And now when I see that, when I press play, woo! It's going to group these together and it's going to cut that hole out. All right, now I have an actual spoon. Cool. It actually worked. You can see that it's holding the grid in its little area here. Awesome. All right. The next thing that I want to do is put some text in here. So to use text, there's a text shape. I'm going to grab on the text shape, clip that in here underneath where it says text. I'm actually going to create a group here, a new grouping. I'm going to say create new object, and I'm going to call this object text. Rename it to text. There we go. Press OK. And now when I put this object in here, oh, by the way, after you've created a lot of things, it's a good idea to like change your speed slider here to increase its speed. That way it all just goes through real fast. Now it makes the spoon. And my text here is, it's okay, except it says text. So I want to change that text. You can go over here. This is the group participation, Danny. You can take a screenshot of this. I can click on right here where it says text, and I'm going to change the size of this and also what it says. What should I make it say? Eduardo, yeah, I'm actually recording this tutorial. It's going to be on a YouTube video, and you can get to it. It'll be on the project itself. This is spoon. All right, this is spoon. There we go. I'm clicking on that, and let's see what that looks like. This is spoon. Okay, cool. Except I want it to be smaller. So to do that, unfortunately, I'm not really able to do that with this block. Instead, I have to scale it. So I'm going to grab the scale modifier. Let me make each one of these 0.1. Let's try that. I'm going to make it 1/10 of its current size. There we go. All right. That's not bad. This is spoon. I can take this object and rotate it now. I'm going to rotate it around the Z-axis, which is that blue axis. Let's try that. There we go. It's inside of this object. I got to move it. Let me move it up first so I can see it. We'll say I'll move it up in the Z direction 1. Let's see if I can see it. Yeah, there we go. This is spoon. Cool. Now I got to move it in the Y direction, this green direction here. So I'll say, let's try moving it 10 first. It needs to be more than that. We'll try 20. It should be called Spooner. Spoon with an E. All right, there we go. This is spoon. I was able to take text and I was able to change what it says. I'm able to scale it, rotate it, and move it. All right, let's talk about stars real quick. We got 3 minutes left. I'm going to show you how we can multiply objects. Actually, no, I think we're out of here. You guys are out of here. I will post this tutorial for you and attach it to the assignment so that way you can complete this. But everybody have a great day. I will talk to you soon. I'm going to show you how you can duplicate objects, so make sure you check this out towards the end. Basically, you're going to use one of these control structures. It's going to look like this. I'm going to create a new object. These are stars, so I'll rename it to stars. What am I going to do? I'm going to make a star. And I'm going to make 5 stars. I'll explain all this. Basically, it counts from 1 to 5 by ones. And you'll see that if you do this, it's going to make 5 stars. Basically what you see here, this is a repeating block, which means that it's going to do this over and over again. I'm going to do this from 1 to 5, which means it's going to happen 5 times. It's counting up by 1. So if I wanted it to count up by 2s or by 3s or whatever, you could do that. Right now, I'm going to be making 5 stars. It's going to loop through this. And every time it does that, it's going to increase the value of I by 1. Yes, I will post this tutorial online. Those of you who are watching this, I will post this tutorial online. It'll be attached to the project itself, so don't worry, you'll be able to watch it. As far as repeating objects, let me just show you real quick how that's done. I'm going to add these objects here. I'm going to move them, so let me move them into place here. I would say that it should be moved, like 25 in the Y direction. And maybe 1.5 in the Z direction, something like that. Let me press play and just see what happens. Well, it makes a star, and it moves it over here. And that's all that happens, really. It makes 5 of them. So actually, if I were to press play and see this in real time, you'll see that it goes and it loops through this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, not very helpful because, well, it put them all in the same spot. So how can I change this? First of all, I don't want its height to be 10. It's a bit ridiculous, and I want its radius to be smaller. I'm going to make its radius 2 instead. See what that looks like. And put all the stars over here. All right. What I need to do is I need to move this thing to where each time it moves at a different amount. And to do that, I'm going to grab the move tool here. And I'm going to make its Y direction. I'm going to make it move based off of math. Oh no, math! I'm going to take the Y direction here. And I'm going to make it use this variable I. Over here in the bottom left, you'll see something that says data. I'm going to grab the I variable and make I multiply by a certain amount. I'm going to make it multiply by -5. So basically what I'm saying is the first time that this loops through, it's going to be 1 times -5. So it's going to move it -5 in the Y direction. The second time this loops through, I is going to become 2. So it will be 2 times -5. So it's going to move it -10 in the Y direction. The third time it loops through, I will be 3. And so it will move it -5, or it'll move it 3 times -5, which means -15. Let's see what it looks like here when I do that. Okay, so this is how I can have multiple objects. I actually need it to move a little bit more here. I need to move my Y direction. I need this to be 15 to start. We'll try this out. Ooh, a little bit more. We'll try 10 in the Y direction. There we go. That's pretty good. Now I just need to manipulate these stars to move it up a little bit maybe. I'll put it in the Z direction 1. And I got to make its height lower. All right, everybody, we're about out of time here. I hope you enjoy the rest of your classes. I hope you enjoy your 3-day weekend. We're about out of time here. I hope you have fun. I hope you design something interesting. And I will see you next week. There we go. I got my 5 stars now. This is Spoon. Now we can see I used a looping process here. I'll explain that one more time. We used some text. We cut out a hole out of an object. We scaled it. We moved it. The last thing you got to do is export this. So go up here to where it says export. Oh, actually, I got to rename it too. Up here on the top left, I'm going to put period 8 Spoony McDowell. I'll put my name too. Now that I've done that, I'm going to go up here to export and then click on STL. And that'll save it as an STL file. And I'm all ready to turn this in for credit. Farewell, everyone. There is no exit ticket, Sage. That's it. This is Spoon. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you have fun with this project. Create something interesting. I will talk to you when you get back into class next week. Group participation is right here. This is it. What did we cover? We talked about placing shapes, moving objects, scaling objects, rotating objects, cutting holes, grouping objects, making text objects, and looping actions. So let's look one more time at looping actions. It's pretty easy. How do you submit the group participation? Go to our folder, go to the Friday folder, and you should see the group participation assignment that you can then submit to. All right, let's take a look real quick. Creating new object stars. How does this work? Main thing to note about how this works. There's this variable that's created called I. Basically, when I start this, I is 1. It starts at 1, and it counts up by 1s until it reaches the number 5. Every time it loops through, I goes up by 1. So the first time it loops through, I is 1. The second time it loops through, I is 2. The third time it loops through, I is 3. The fourth time, it's 4. and the 5th time it's 5, and then it stops. Now this I can be used inside of the loop, which basically is what is done right here to move the object. I'm changing the amount that it is, that y, or rather the object is moved in the y direction by using I times -5. The first time it'll be -5. The second time it'll be 2 times -5, which is -10. The third time it's looped, it'll be 3 times -5, which is -15. The fourth time it'll be it'll be 4 times -5, which makes it -20. And the 5th time it will be 5 times -5, which is 25. Which basically just makes it to where every time it creates this new star, it moves it a different amount. I hope you have fun with making this. Ivan, have a great weekend. I will talk to you later. I hope you have a great time making a cool handheld object. All right, everyone. Enjoy yourselves. I will talk to you again soon. Farewell.